Hello, hello. Welcome to today's episode. Yes. Have you ever made a decision to do something and then you immediately started experiencing what feels like opposition or hurdles or things that keep tripping you up? But what if it's actually part of the destination, part of the journey, part of how we learn? Part of finding the lessons so that we can move forward faster, part of knowing that we are headed in the right direction. What if the decisions that you made today started shaking things up in your world, and it might cause a little bit of doubt. I'm not going to lie. It might cause a little bit of uncertainty, overwhelm, angst. But yet there's something in you that knows that if you don't reach that destination, you are just going to feel miserable. Because you know that deep down that staying in the same place, staying in the same environment that either has robbed you of your life, your energy, your health, whether it's I'm talking about career today, and I'm also talking about in life. So environments that we stay in with our career, it's a choice. Because many times what happens is we go after the job, right? We go after the career because of the shiny object syndrome, the glitter, the perks, the 401k, the insurance, the PTO, and anything else that comes with it. And then when we start seeing the things that keep rising up, like the office politics and the drama and the poor leadership and the lack of communication skills and the patterns and behaviors and things start sticking out the most. And then when we notice them, we swat them away like they're a bug, like they're going to go away, but the bugs keep growing, and we keep using raid, or we just squash the bugs and keep staying, and we become numb and we become comfortable. But what happens when you get to a point in your life where you are done, where you're like, that's it? You put what is it that the pioneers did back in the day to claim land? I believe they ran and put a stake in the ground, and that was their land. That's how they claimed land, right? You can do the research on that. I'm not a history buff. For some reason, that came to my mind, which is very odd. I guess I did pay attention to history lessons, or was it movies on Netflix, or was it TV shows like 1883? Anyway, so we have that, right? Where all of a sudden we're running along in life, and then we put our stake in the ground because we've hit a fork in the road. We've hit a shifting and a transition. I'm not even going to say pivot, because pivot would be an about face going back in the opposite direction. I'm going to pivot, and I'm just going to say screw this and stop going. But it's a shifting and a transition, because all of a sudden you're going to start seeing things that perhaps you've grown numb to and accustomed to and tolerated. And all of a sudden, things are going to get shaken up. Things are going to start seeming like you are being tossed into a furnace. You're being shaken up like six dominoes in the air. You feel like you are being pressed down, shaken together, like you are in a roller coaster or some type of ride that you can't get off. It's exhilarating, exhausting, energetically increasing and draining at the same time. It's like, holy shit. It can feel confusing. It can feel like your whole world has been shaken up. And many times we just ignore it. And so we push through. We're told to push through the the patterns and behaviors that we're seeing at a job or in a career. But what if I told you that there's a reason that you're seeing it? And it's not because you're meant to that you're meant to tolerate or stay in places, it means that you have been called. Maybe you're what's called a chosen one. Maybe, maybe your life, kind of like mine, led you in the direction of being a pattern disruptor. Everywhere you go, you realize that the same patterns have followed you. And yet it comes so natural and easy, like breathing, like we see movies, right? With like ninjas or people, right? That like they look like they've been born with this gift. And sometimes it can feel like a curse to where you're sitting there questioning God, right? And you're like, why did you give this to me? Why am I seeing all this? What the heck? Can I please get off this ride? Can I please, you know, can I please be removed from this journey that you have me on? And also, what if you are in that environment to shake up the status quo, to be a voice, to call out the things that are not acceptable because the patterns that people have fallen into. It's just an obvious pattern. And here's the cool thing, when you recognize patterns, you will no longer take things personal and you will start seeing things as they are. And you won't feel like it's a person like you are being personally attacked or targeted. Sometimes you might be a target of unlikely people who do go out of their way to sabotage you. For about 3 years, I was behind the scenes. There was a person that in a career environment that spent approximately 3 years going out of their way deliberately trying to sabotage me, trying to get me fired, stalking my social media, going around talking about me behind my back, gossiping, throwing me under the bus. Now, I had no idea that this person was doing this behind the scenes because I wasn't talking about it with anyone except for my therapist. And I don't share names. And I wasn't talking about it with coworkers. And yet, that's the one place that that person thought that I wasn't going to find out. I know that God also opened doors for me to grow and heal, and right around the time that I started gaining more awareness of where this person's personal life was at, I realized that what this person is doing was not my fault and it had nothing to do with me. Because when people go out of their way to deliberately sabotage somebody else, it is a reflection of how they see themselves. It is a reflection that they don't like someone's light. And when someone admits to doing something because they used you as a target, then you know, oh shit, I must have something big on my life because you thought it was okay to go out of your way to use your same patterns and behaviors that you've probably used somewhere else. But just so you know, it's not going to work on people like myself or like us who pay attention and who are on team offense instead of team defense. By the way, which team are you on? Are you on the defensive team or are you on the offensive team? It matters. Offense, you go in the war room, you pray, you get solutions, you get tips, you get a strategy on how to defeat the other players, and you're 5 steps ahead of them. And also, people can't destroy, they can try, but people can't destroy people who have been called to destroy things that need to be torn down. Now, did we ask to be a light bringer? Not really. Did we ask to be a destroyer of patterns and behaviors? Probably not. Did we ask to go into environments that have created, that are full of chaos, un unorganized, where there's a lack of leadership? It looks like leadership because people can talk a good game, people can play a good game, but how are the skills? How are the communication skills? What is allowed in environments? By the way, it starts at the top. So if someone is leading in a career environment that is causing the department to go sideways and like a freaking disaster zone, it's not the employees doing, it is because the leader has allowed it. And then if other people are leading an environment as well, and they're not addressing things that need to be addressed, but instead ignoring it, it's just a matter of time before employees start taking over and start adding to the chaos. And before you know it, if you don't handle it, it's gonna turn into a bonfire. And in 0 to 60 seconds, you now have a big mess on your hands. And when you have good people, really amazing people that show up in a chaotic environment, don't expect those good people to stay very long because they can see right through the bullshit. They can see right through the BS. I'm going to be bold. This what I do is I am a community um I'll call it this way, community enhancer, employee um I am a retention guru. I I go into environments and I can immediately see the patterns and I disrupt them. I can see the behaviors that are taking place. I can see the things that have been running rampant without being addressed. And what I do is I increase the employee morale, increase the employee retention, and I engage. So I am an employee engagement coordinator officer. I am a certified celebration officer, certified encouragement officer. That's what I do, and it's needed in workplaces. And corporate career is the very place I've been called to call out the patterns, call out the disruptiveness, and call it out. And also engage employees at the same time. Remind them who they are in the process, right? Remind them that, hey, thank you for coming in through the doors, even if you're having a hard time behind the scenes. Do you know what that does? It lets people know that they're seen. Some people have ignored the pearls that I toss, so I stopped engaging with employees that really have zero desire to move forward. And I'm not sharing that as a rude thing because I can do my best, but I can't force people to change and do an about face with what they're used to. I can't force any employee or coworker or any person to, read something that's going to actually change their life. I can't force people. But the ones who have told me, Tiffany, thank you. I have saved your emails on my desktop to remind me. That's who I'm sending the emails to. And it's been a while since I've sent an email in my current career because I noticed that a lot of people don't read the emails anyway. And then I noticed that a lot of people that I thought would respond aren't responding. Then I realized that as someone who is learning how to expend their energy, I realized, where do I need to put my energy? I love sending emails though. And in fact, I got a nudge to send another one because I know for a fact that the people that I work with could use an encouraging word. It's just how I operate. Give me an office, pay me well, and I will start helping your employees love coming to work again. That's what I do. And they'll be able to get through the noise, get through the BS, ditch the nonsense. They'll be able to look at what they want. Look at what they want to do, not putting the job first. They will start putting themselves first. Okay, so when you step into this job, what's your intention for today? What do you want to focus on? In a career, I also know that people when you ask them a specific question, for example, I do research, okay? And having real life conversations with people is how I've done my research for over 30 years, being in a career in the corporate world. Now, I didn't always know that I was increasing employee morale and retention and all that stuff, but I've been getting practice for over 3 decades. But here's what I know: people that have the identity attached to their job, so much so that when you ask them a question in the form of, hey, what's good in your life right now? What are you celebrating? And if the only way they can answer that is about the job and how they're not getting in trouble, we have a problem. Because now they're not seeing themselves outside of the job. They've attached their identity in how they look doing the job. So then what I do is I listen and then I tell them, no, no, no. I'm not talking about what's good with your job. What's good with you in your life? And then when they can't answer, I know that we have a problem. Houston, right? Houston, Mayday, Mayday, ship's going down. When you have an environment where employees don't have a vision, they've lost who they are, they can't even answer what's good in their life other than a work stuff, we have a serious problem. One of the hardest things for me to do is enter environments where the energy has gone to shit, where the people have a hard time smiling. You can just see the stress, you can feel it. There's a big elephants in the room. You know that phrase? Or a big camel or a llama. Take your pick of which animal you want. But elephants are huge, okay? Or a rhinoceros. You can just tell when someone has the weight of the world on their shoulders, especially those who are in a leadership position. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. Those who have a leadership position, though, I've also seen a pattern of things. And when a leader is burnt out, when a leader doesn't know how to increase energy except being a fake robot and expecting people to follow suit because being unhappy isn't an option. It's like, but I'm going through a tough time today. I'm not going to force fakery just to be in this environment. Don't force me to fake it just to look good in front of you. When you have leaders that don't really listen to what you're saying, but they're only listening to give you correction, or they're not really trying to understand where you're coming from, and they don't take time to explain things, and they don't take time to really communicate in a way that's effective, we have a problem, Houston. So when your employees are walking around disgruntled, angry, hating the environment, we have a problem. Because have you seen that movie, Lord of the Flies? Leave employees to the demise of their own, and they're gonna start taking over, and it's not gonna be pretty. And when you have people that lead in a career and they are not leading effectively, you have now left a department to their own way of, like, they will lead the department. And then there's, things that happen with like frustration. So I'm sharing this with you today because maybe you're finding you've been in these places for a really long time. And maybe listening to the sound of my voice, you're remembering who the hell you are. You're like, wait a moment, I've been in a job for over 20 years, same job. What have I been doing? I've watched my kids grow up. I've been here all this time. I just keep coming to work. The environment is just great, but yet behind the scenes, you're longing for something more. You're longing, like, routine. Have a different morning routine or even nighttime routine. Meals. Do you know what you love to eat? Do you know what your favorite color is? Do you know what your favorite candy bar is? Do you know what you love to do outside of your job? Or has your job been the identity And then the patterns and behaviors that we also pick up from being in environments. One of the biggest patterns that I see is people immediately think that everyone is your friend in a workplace. Then everyone wants to, submit friendship requests on social media. Absolutely not. I've learned the hard way. Can you become friends with coworkers? I believe you can build a very amazing connection with coworkers, that yes, you can develop a friendship outside of work, because I've done it, but I also don't do it with everyone. It's it's a privilege, it's not a right. And when also I see that people are sending me friend requests and they don't remove the job name, and I see it's from my job, I'm like, oh, hell no. But you can go follow me on my business page. You don't need to friend request me. I have a business page for you. But then I don't need to know that you're on my business page. And I also, for me, I have a criteria. I pay attention to how people operate. Do they cause drama? Do they gossip? Do they vent too much? Do they complain about their circumstances and they don't take accountability? Do they know how to apologize? Do they know how to be humble? Do they have people smarts? So if somebody's going to say call themselves a team player, are you really a team player or do you think you are? You know, what's their personal life like? Are they basket cases? Do they know how to get the help they need on the outside? Do they know how to work on themselves? Or do they or is it codependent? Do people What I mean by that is, do people rely on other people to make them happy? Do people rely on other people to help them get their energy? If that's the case, it's become codependent. I don't deal with that. People have to work on themselves. I don't care who you are. Friendship for me is a criteria, and that is not rude, it's not selfish, it's not stuck up, it's not mean. I have enough personal experience with people who I have thought were friends, also coworkers, like I shared, who have gone out of their way deliberately, who still don't take 100% accountability, who blame other people for why they do what they do or why they did what they did. And it's like, try again. You're 100% responsible for your decisions and your choices. Nobody held a gun to your head. Nobody forced you to do XYZ. It was a choice you made. Nobody else told you to pull the trigger, right? In a sense. Nobody else told you to act like that. And you knew what the hell you were doing. By the way, an apology and forgiveness doesn't excuse behaviors. It does not excuse patterns, and it does not excuse what people know what the hell they did. Forgiveness releases the chokehold off of necks. One of the hardest things for me, though, and I was just having a talk with God the other day, actually just yesterday. I said, God, it is very hard for me to have to keep forgiving this person. I said, it's also very hard for me to walk into an environment knowing that this place that I have been at is one that I have had to heal from. Why am I still here? And I question him all the time. I'm honest. I'm extremely honest. And I'm like, hey, what am I doing here? What is my mission? What do you have for me here? Because I'm done. I want to rid myself of this place. I want to wash my hands. I don't want to be here. But then here's what I do know. Being in this environment, this is the one place where I have gotten the most healing. I've grown a lot. I've invested in myself more so in the last 7 years than I have in the 3 decades of my career. I have increased my portfolio, which is getting testimonials from people. I've started my podcast, which is successfully growing. Like, oh my gosh, y'all blow my mind every day. I look at the stats because I pay attention because it's also a testament that my voice is not trash. And I show up and I'm going to bring the value. I'm going to speak in a way that gets you to know who I am. And yeah, a lot of you do like me, and that's okay. And some of you may not like me, and that's okay. But I know my message is going to reach you anyway. And then it's a trust factor. It's the know like trust factor. I speak, I get it out of my system, get it out of my head, but I do it in a way that helps you because what I shared with you today, I've shared with you, number one, how to set boundaries every single day in your life and with your job. I guess with my podcast, I've got to put it on do not disturb when I do the podcast because I use my phone because that's where the app is. But I was just getting a phone call and it interrupted me. So I'm going to see how to do the do not disturb while I'm on the air. And I pray, I had a glitch before. I put out a podcast that had a glitch. Same thing happened. Similar thing happened. And it was the most da- downloaded podcast. Um, hmm. Uh, okay, well, it was the most listened to podcast. Plus, God blew my mind, and I think, oh, that was when I got 118. It was like a month ago, within the last month, 118 downloads in 24 hours. So He's gonna blow my mind again with this one. So, what I was sharing with you is what I've taught is boundaries. I taught how to set your intentions every single day. Because if your routine is not setting up your day to be optimized, energized, badass, confident, full of unconditional self love, full of creativity, joy, knowing your value, knowing your self worth, then your day might go to crap because you might allow outside circumstances to tell you how to act, how to be. Also, having a vision every single day. Number four, assessing and auditing where you're at in your life, looking at your career, looking at where you're at, looking at what you do and where you go every single day, because environment has everything to do with how we function, everything to do with how we live our life. Are we intentional? Do we live on purpose? Or are we just going through the motions? Are we attaching our value to outside external validation or our worth? Have we given our power away to people, to circumstances, to jobs, to friends, to family? What would it look like for you to put all four of those to use every single day? When is the last time you celebrated yourself? Remember when I shared the story? True stories people have not been able to answer outside of what they do for work. What's good in their life? To me, that is a problem. Red flag. It means that that person is crumbling behind the scenes, crumbling silently. Nobody notices because they're a strong one. It's the strong ones that force themselves to be seen. I know because I used to do it for validation. It's just what we know. High achievers, high performers, that's you. Yeah. The questions that we actually have lurking underneath. Does anybody see me? Am I bringing enough value? And instead of giving ourselves accolades by celebrating our hard work, and our accomplishments. We rely on the external validations from our bosses or supervisors or coworkers who, by the way, every year give a review with the most ridiculous words I have ever seen. Meets expectations, but they can't give you the highest one for exceeds expectations. Not one review says exceeds expectations. What's also very interesting is that I have worked in places where the leadership people can't find anything for me to work on, so they actually make stuff up or they use situations against me, which I call them out on that because that is inappropriate. So, the last thing I said was celebrations. Are you giving yourself away to environments that you've lost yourself in? It's time to come home to you, and I'm handing you a mirror today. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. Maybe no one has taken the time to tell you that you're freaking amazing and to keep going and that you're doing a good job. And if you're waiting to hear that, I'm telling you, you're not going to hear that from a lot of people. So if you're waiting for other people to validate you and to hand you your power, you are going to be sad. But instead, you got to give yourself that power, that validation. And every day, something I do intentionally with my clients is I open up the doors for them to celebrate. In fact, imagine, just imagine, starting staff meetings where you have people go around the room and say, hey, we're doing a celebration thing today. I want to know one thing you're celebrating. I don't care if it's you got out of bed and you walked through the door. I don't care if it's outside of this job. What are you celebrating today? We're going to celebrate you. It starts, I just felt, man, you can probably hear the passion in my voice. I could cry. It feels heavy because I know what happens when people celebrate. Their lives changed. I've watched lives change. My clients' lives have changed. The color comes back on their faces. They don't look puffy. They don't look exhausted. They're putting themselves first. They're setting boundaries. They're putting themselves first before they put their kids first. They also, their businesses are thriving. Their friendships are now thriving because they're setting boundaries. Celebration also brings an awareness. Like, hey, I had a tough time today at my job, but I figured out and I created an easier flow for a client or whatever the case may be, or for myself. I found an easier way. We celebrate that. Do you want to know what that does to our power and our confidence and our value? Do you want to know that if more people would celebrate, especially in the career world, do you know how many more people would be happier? More joy? Celebrations acknowledge our hard work. But why do we only acknowledge our hard work when we're in stress or or only if? And I also see I could oh man, I could cry when I say this. One of the hardest things I watch are good people silently crumble underneath, and then before we know it, they're having panic attacks. They're having tantrums because their emotions are out of control because they haven't set boundaries. They haven't had a conversation with bosses. I've watched good people silently crumble under a upheaval of stress because they didn't have the tools. They're relying on the job to help them, and they crumbled, collapsed. And it's like, man, so my my vision, my heart, my intention is to bring a different flow to career environments. That's what I do. That's what I do so well because in foster care, I had to assess environments in 0 to 60 seconds to keep myself safe my whole life. From before I was one until after I graduated high school, I took that into my adult years. in every environment. That's no way to live. It was exhausting. It was exhausting. I also lost time. I lost energy, my health. I got diagnoses that I'm currently working through, navigating through. My body has taken a toll, trauma, abuse, physical, mental, emotional. Then putting myself in environments that portrayed foster care environments, which were horrific. Yeah. And also the leaders who are in a leadership position or portray themselves as a leader are reflect who was a leader over me in my foster care, which were horrific, abusive people. So you can imagine, it's like, oh gosh, dang it, I don't want to. Excuse me, I don't want to do this. I don't want to be here. But for some reason, there's this fire inside of me to see corporate environments change, to see the status quo change, to see employees loving walking into an environment, even when it's a shit pile. People loving their job again. I saw something last night, and I'll start closing with this. What's very sad is over the years, the job is no longer about the job. No longer are people loving their jobs. It's because there's a lot of expectations, unrealistic, and some like, it's like, wow, you really want me to do all that? It's no longer about the job anymore. It's about politics, and you've got all the boxes you got to check now. But it's the pressure that they put onto people with low pay that they force people to work under, which is pressure. Nobody can work under pressure. You have like a collapsing unit that expects people to perform, to underpromise and overdeliver. People are hating their job because now it's no longer about you did an amazing job today. It's you didn't get this done, and that's all we're told. Or you're doing this wrong, or the word why. Can you tell me why? Why did you do it this way? It's like, don't interrogate me. Learn a different way to communicate. Period. Yes, learn a different freaking way to communicate with your staff. I will speak the truth. People hire me not to stay stuck. People hire me to shed a light on where the patterns that they've been walking in are creating the leaks and the gaps and about to send their entire department over a cliff. I used to run from this, but I also realized that my story in foster care is what created the foundation of how I'm able to do what I do. Having spent my whole life, plus you add the 3 decades of career, that includes my entire existence of living. Having to assess a room immediately. I've experienced it. I've burned out. I've been exhausted. I've been there. But now I recognize the signs in a very quick amount of time. And I'm like, oh, hell no. I'm not the thermometer, y'all. I am the thermostat. You too get to be the thermostat every single day where you go. But it's a decision, it's a choice. You get to decide today. No one's going to decide it for you. You don't have to be a thermometer. You get to be the thermostat. And guess what's going to happen? You might get some opposition, and that's okay. Just know you're on the right track, because when you're in a place where you're not making moves, making waves, then chances are you are someone who has become numb. I can't help it. Where I go, I do things differently, and it ruffles the feathers of people. It ruffles the feathers of the top of the organization. It does. And then, but I used to think I was the problem. Then I realized, oh, I'm really not the problem. I'm only disrupting patterns, and nobody likes a pattern disruptor. Nobody likes it when someone comes inside of a community and disrupts the norm. So I realized that with me being able to locate the patterns and behaviors immediately, I'm able to now realize it's nothing personal. It's more like a bad business transaction. Like, do I really want to do business with you? No. And you want to know the other part to this is that when you start waking up, today is your wake up call. If you are a leader, today you're going to know if you've been leading your team into a pit, into a burning building, and they can't leave. You'll know. And now today you're going to know whether or not you are somebody that's either adding to the chaos in your work environment, or if you're somebody that's trying to, um, you know, I don't want to say survive because that's a horrible word. Do you know how many times I've heard I say, hey, how's it going? Oh, I'm just surviving. So now I'm going to start asking people, what does that mean to you? You're just surviving. And why? Why are you surviving? Don't you want to thrive? So I'm here to build a massive movement. I really am. And the thing that I thought that I was building behind the scenes, I realized it's just people hiring me to consult, to find the gaps, to find the leaks, to find different ways to do things. I mean, imagine every day starting your environment off to help them feel good, to help them feel confident, like, hey, awesome to see you today. What's good in your life outside of this place? Or, no, do you know what makes your employees tick? Do you know who the most toxic person in your crew is? If so, why are they still there? Why are they allowed to stay? Yeah. Tough questions, right? So it's when we start asking these questions that we're going to know. We're going to know why. And we're going to know. And we're going to stop. We're going to stop playing the victim. We're going to stop tolerating things. Lastly, loyalty doesn't mean anything. Loyalty doesn't mean it's a good thing. Loyalty is also a sign that you've lost yourself and you're just now walking around like without breath, without life. It's like loyalty with no vision, no boundaries, no clarity, no focus, no knowing who you are. That's a recipe for walking around and getting eaten alive for breakfast in a land of dinosaurs. Loyalty doesn't equal what we think it does, but we're sold that lie. We're sold that bill of goods. And the last I checked is that loyalty can also lead to good people abandoning themselves all for a retirement plan, a 401k, a paycheck, and an insurance plan that probably isn't as grand as we thought. Don't get me started about insurance. Sometimes it's just cheaper to pay the cash price, and I'll leave that right there. So that concludes this episode. I would love to know, number one, what stood out to you the most in this. I would love for you to please send me a testimonial. I probably should have mentioned this at the beginning. I'm going to put my email in the description in the show notes, and feel free to send me a testimonial of how this I almost said this job, how this podcast has transformed your life. What are you doing? I'd love to celebrate with you, even if it's a celebration. Also, um, the other thing too is remembering who you are means taking a good hard look in the mirror, being gentle with yourself, giving yourself massive self-compassion for what you didn't know, and remembering that you don't have to lose yourself either by saying yes to everything, because yes, people, it is a form of it's a recipe for burnout. So that's how you also lose yourself. But when you find your self-worth and confidence, you'll be able to celebrate and say, I am able to say no without giving a reason why I'm saying no. Yes. So that concludes this episode. Thank you so much for choosing you to listen. Don't forget to click like and subscribe and follow, and send this to a friend, a coworker, a biz bestie, and also for corporations who are looking for a what I do, a community engagement officer, director, leadership, and employee engagement coordinator, manager, community manager. This podcast platform is also your doorway to what it's like to work with me. Because what I can see is corporations pressing play, and their teams have a different way of getting training. This is maybe this is the dream, is to get my podcast into corporations so that they can start training their teams differently. So thank you so much for choosing you to listen. And that's concludes this episode.